Yo, hello, and welcome to the Lenko Show. This is episode number 129. Back again. It is Alex here, and I'm joined by Chris again. What's up, bro?
Hello, everybody.
And as always, this podcast is sponsored and brought to you by Dry Robe, outdoor gear to keep you going any weather, anywhere. And today, we're going to kind of touch a little bit on adversity. Oh, I guess adversity, challenges, things that athletes will face, not just athletes, but if you're kind of a fitness enthusiast, if you train in the gym, or if you just maybe you're even a professional athlete listening to this and thinking, do you know what? This is some of the shit I go through. Well, that's what we're going to touch on today. Our experiences around dealing with it, coaching people through it. So hopefully there should be some pretty important takeaways. And I guarantee you, if in today's episode, if there isn't something that you can use in your own life or something that's relevant to you in your own life, there will be a direct link between that and somebody you know. So it will be useful. If you play as part of a team, I can guarantee a teammate will be experiencing one or maybe even multiple of those things. So keep your head on a swivel. Just be aware of what's going on around you. I want to start today with this quote. So, Gabby Douglas, the hard days are the best because that's when champions are made. So, if you push through, you can push through anything. Just a reminder that when it gets tough, you just carry on, get on with it, suck it up, embrace it. What's your thoughts on that quote?
Super cute.
Super cute.
Yeah, very, very cute.
Are
I
you
like it.
are you embracing that with your Ironman training at the moment?
It's not, to be fair,
Have you done anything yet?
yeah, I don't think I've hit like, it's been very nice to me thus far. I've been fine.
Are you at the enjoyment phase still?
Yeah,
Quite,
yeah,
it's quite novel. Everything is new.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
don't mind sitting on the bike for 2 hours, kind of
No,
situation.
no, it's fine. Although I do have a bike test to do tomorrow, which he said will be a little bit different in terms of my levels of enjoyment. However, the rest of it has all been okay. Also, I must add that I am having some shoulder discrepancies at the moment, so my swimming has been limited. So when we say I'm enjoying it, am I really doing, well, I'm doing everything I can, I know that, but am I doing what I'll be doing in 10 weeks' time? No, it's going to look very different. So there's time for it to be very different.
Do you know what? I went for a weighted run the other day. So I've cracked out the weighted vest again just because for whatever reason, and I can't put my finger on it. I wanted to feel like shit. That genuinely my thought process wasn't right. What's the best form of training for me to do today? I kind of I finished my morning sessions, I finished my morning calls with my clients, and I sat there and I thought to myself, I want to feel like shit today. I want to beat myself up today. And I thought I know exactly how to do that. So I got the weighted vest out of the garage, brushed it down, got all the dust off it, and took the dog out for a run. Wore that, and then I decided to do it again on Sunday. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do a long one today. And I think I was in a bit of a bad mood anyway. So I'd gone into the gym. I was going to do some filming and do a training session. And there was a few cars in the car park, and I thought that's weird. Like this time on a Sunday, that doesn't normally. That's not normal. And I sat there for a moment, and a couple of kids came running to the front door of the gym, opened it up, and I was like, "What's this all about?" And then this other car pulled into the car park, and I looked and I thought, "What's going on? Like, there's something going on. This isn't right." And what's with all the kids? And then a couple of kids got out the car. The parents got out, handed them the presents, and I was like, "Oh shit." There was a kids' party at the gym. So I was like, right, well, I can't go in there. I can't do my filming in there while there's a kids' party on. Um, and I certainly can't take the dog in there while there is a kids' party on. There'll be just carnage. So I thought, screw that. I'm going to drive home. And because I was in a bad mood, I thought I'm going to wear my weighted vest and I'm just going to go for a really long run and see, like, just really make myself suffer. So I just thought I'll just do a longer loop than I normally do. And yeah, it got to the point where I think it was about 10 or between 10 and 12K through, coming up the final bit of the hill. Do you remember when we did the Dave Goggins 4x48, 4x4 for 48 hours?
Yeah.
And the way I was essentially coming on the return leg of that in reverse, going up the hill. And I had a little moment to myself. I just smiled and I thought, this is exactly where I want to be right now because it sucked. I was like, my legs are burning, my back was aching. I was like, everything about me is, I'm feeling it right now. I thought, this is fantastic. This is exactly where I want to be. And I got home and I was in a shit state afterwards. I've been recovering ever since. So it was therapeutic, but there was no rhyme or reason to it. I just wanted to suffer a little bit. So that's a summary of my training recently.
Interesting. Interesting.
So let me know when you get to that phase. I don't know. Have you ever experienced that where you've just thought, do you know what? I just want to mess myself up a bit.
Yeah, but you could do that in such faster ways. That so the reason that I just said interesting and left that mysterious there is because why would what like you say there's no rhyme or reason, but there's absolutely a reason for you to put on a weighted vest and run 13K. You're not doing that for no reason.
Well, no, no. I felt like it. I just felt like it. That was just what I wanted to do. That
You
like,
felt like beating yourself up
yeah, 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 yeah. In
for
terms of
no reason.
so, well, I mean, in terms of my training, I mean, I had to do something, and one of the issues I've had recently, like my elbows have been just like on fire whenever I grip anything or carry anything. Even doing like chin ups, pull ups, even pressing. Like my elbows have just been like screaming at me, like, "What are you doing?" So I just thought, I'm going to find something else to do. I'll find a different way to batter my legs and work my core and stress my shoulders and my breathing, and yeah, just bit of fitness work, and that was it. That was the one.
Sounds like you've found a productive outlet for your anger.
Actually, I'll tell you where it's probably actually come from. So I'd recently finished reading Bravo 20 by Andy McNabb, and basically a story of an SAS patrol in Iraq that got into some situations and had to move out. And they like one of the guys ended up covering probably something like 130K. And I was like, I wonder what that feels like carrying all that weight and all that kit in the freezing cold and the dark and all that kind of stuff. So I just thought, "Do you know what? I'll get the weighted vest out." That was what I initially got the vest out for, like the week before. And then yeah, on that Sunday I just got back and I was like, I just want to go for a long run and feel like crap. So I did it, and I was successful in my endeavors.
Nice.
So anyway, one of the things that I want to really touch on today's podcast and go through is more of a mindset thing. So something for everybody to kind of think about and consider with regards to themselves personally or their teammates. It just a few different challenges that you might be going through in terms of mental battles, a few things that you might think about. Certainly some experiences if you're involved in training or playing sport for long enough, you absolutely will come across some of these. And if you play to a high level, again, the same thing applies. So I'm just going to rattle through 8 of them. A few of them are fairly similar, but then we've kind of narrowed it down to 3 key points for you so you can get an understanding and kind of simplify things a little bit. So, number one is you know you're capable of so much and you're desperate to succeed, but you just feel stuck. All right, that's quite common. Like sometimes in the grand scheme of things, you don't see how much progress you're actually making, and that feeling of being stuck can be a little bit debilitating and can be a bit distracting in terms of pulling your eyes elsewhere to do different things that aren't necessarily going to benefit you and are just going to end up overloading you. So you're always looking for the next little trick to take you forward. So that's number one. Other people around you are excelling, but you feel like you're underperforming and not keeping up. Again, in terms of your own mindset relative to your peers, that can be a bit of a debilitating feeling if you feel like you're sinking behind. And then number three, you've got doubts and uncertainty. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, obviously. I didn't even need to write that really, did I? But you've got doubts, uncertainty, insecurities, sometimes negative thoughts. Which one of those do you want to start with, Chris? Do you want to unpick any of them right now?
Well, the one you were going through, doubts and uncertainty. Yeah, it's an obvious one, but I think it's almost so obvious that people just don't recognize it. And, they say the same in Alcoholics Anonymous way. It's like the first thing you gotta do is accept it.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have doubts, you're gonna have uncertainty.
I mean,
And
with your Ironman training, have you got any doubts or uncertainty around that? Any potentially negative thoughts that occasionally float around that you then have to tackle and deal with?
um I wouldn't say that I've not had, so in the back of my mind, these haven't really come up yet. I'm sure as I get further into the training, they might creep in a little bit more. But like on one hand, obviously there's the weak left knee, so it's knowing that. Um, and when I'm running, if there's any kind of weakness in my left knee, the first thought is, yeah, it's your weak left knee, mate. What you did. And then obviously just right now it's because I've got a niggle in my shoulder. So like obviously long term it looks like I might end up drowning in the swim. But
We'll say things
no,
like that.
honestly, like I said this to people, I'm doing it in Lanzarote, the worst case scenario. Like I start to drown, someone rescues me, and I'm on holiday. So honestly at this stage, no, not really, because I'm doing everything that I've been told to do by someone who I have absolute faith in. So it takes the stress off me,
Yeah.
put it on someone else. It's that time of year, sharing is caring. Put it all on someone else that you trust, obviously. Um, and then you can worry on doing the work, like as long as you're getting the work done. Yeah, I've not got over my shoulder. Everything else has been fine. The training's been good, so I'm happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah. I was going to say that's probably one of the really important parts of it in terms of dealing with that doubt and uncertainty is just share it with a coach. Share it with someone that's probably been there already, and then they can talk you through it, walk you around, kind of, all right, okay, well, like, let's not panic. Let's just do this next thing and
I think
focus.
also it's knowing that it's going to be there regardless.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be there underlying because that's what humans are like. That's what we think like. So it's just accepting that you are like a doubt is going to creep in, uncertainty is going to creep in. Like maybe every 10 minutes in your training session, if you're doing a long session, maybe it's there every single day. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Focus on what you can control.
The next one, number four, injuries are a major personal setback and often lead to exclusion, spending time away from the team, uh, which leaves you feeling isolated. I know I've been there. Number five, you're training hard and putting in loads of effort and you can't seem to actually break through. Again, that's just frustration of not feeling like you're making progress. So one of the things we need to do there is actually come up with some objective measures for your performance and then gauge it based on that rather than just a subjective feeling of how do you feel like you're doing today? Because that is a very emotional, erratic, nonsensical way to actually approach your performance and your progress. Number six, this is actually um, whether we like it or not, this is something that's always going to be present because people just make their minds up about things. But number six, coaches have already made their mind up about you, and changing their perception of you seems to be impossible. Now, this is something I've seen at the professional level all the way through to amateur level, and it's it's a very complex one because it feeds through into so many different aspects of the team. And if someone's already got something in their head about who you are as a person, what you like as a player, what you like as a character, what your capabilities are, what you're good at, what you're bad at. It doesn't, sometimes it doesn't really matter how much work you put in to change that. Sometimes it just doesn't change. Like changing people's minds about you once it's made up is very, very difficult. I don't know if you've come across that, Chris, but I know a few instances, and I'm not going to name names, but again, this all comes down to a lot of coaching with regards to team sports and performance. It's subjective and it's difficult to actually pinpoint. So To be honest, most of those situations resolve themselves by one or both of those people parting ways and moving to a different team. Really simple fix. Um, Ultimately, my advice for any athlete going through that kind of situation is what is your long-term goal and what are you aiming to achieve? Like, are you happy with being where you are right now? What can you do to change it? What is under your control? And what can be done differently? I think Marcus Rashford at Man United is probably a perfect example. There are a lot of people, not necessarily coaches or managers, but certainly his teammates, the press, like everyone around him will have an opinion of him. And sometimes, no matter what happens, that isn't going to change. Like if you've built up a bit of a reputation or you've built up um, a bit of a, I don't know, not a bit of a stigma. A bit of a stigma is probably the wrong word, but you built up that part of your identity where people see a particular thing and then they can, no matter how much you do elsewhere, they are not going to take their eyes off that and let it go. And then number seven, and this is just to do with the volume of work, the amount of work ethic, which if you're an amateur athlete or some semi-professional athlete, very common, but you're exhausted, your daily life demands everything from you, then your training and playing schedule demands that you give even more. And number eight, pressure to perform weighs a lot, and it weighs 100 times more when things aren't going your way. Have you experienced that? Have you been through that?
Yes. Yeah. And, it all leads up to that same stuff, like you said at the start with the doubts and the uncertainty. Um, the pressure to perform is tough because I feel like it ties in with the previous point that you made about like people's subjective opinions of you and their perception of you and what you're doing. Like you kind of have the expectations of what you can do. And I think when you're particularly good at something, so any athletes out there that are playing their sports, if they have put in the work and they've invested their time and they've become excelled at something, sometimes despite that, you can still have a good day or a bad day for who knows what reason. Sometimes the body feels great and you have a shit day. Sometimes the body feels shit and you have a great day. And oftentimes, sports science can identify certain things. Okay, you didn't sleep this, or you've been traveling here, or you've been stressed here. But sometimes you've just like there's no real reason. You just didn't play well that day. That's it. You tried. You tried, and it was shit. And no one else cares that you tried. Everyone's always talking about effort, but you put players out there to perform and to achieve a result. Like the result is important. Yeah, it matters if people are trying, of course. But if someone's trying really hard and they're playing shit regardless, they're getting subbed because it's just, do you know what I mean? It's just not happening. It's like
Yeah.
I kept you on because you tried really hard. No, that doesn't happen in the real world. Not in like higher level sports. So
Yeah. And then sometimes it's just not your day.
yeah,
Like that's just it. It just isn't your day, and it isn't to be. And again, with regards to that situation, I would just say it all comes back to just working on you. Like no matter how bad it's been, or no matter how much your performance has gone against you or not gone in your favor, just go back to the training ground, work your socks off, and put yourself in a position where, or give yourself a chance that it doesn't happen again. Like I've been there plenty of times where I've either not performed as I've wanted to, and then you go back to work, you get on with it, you do everything you can to improve, and then by the time your next performance comes around, it's having that mindset of going, I've done the work. I'm happy with my ability. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm good at. I'm just going to focus on that. And then if you're very unlucky, you'll get asked to do something which is just out of your comfort zone or isn't within your scope when things haven't been going right anyway. And it's just one of those things you have to deal with as best as you can. So all of these things will come down to just getting back to doing the work, putting yourself in a position to be successful. And if we were kind of summarizing down to 3 points, I think the first one is just going to be the importance of patience and focus over the long term. So, Chris, have you got any ways in which you actually take time away to kind of zoom out and observe the big picture?
I don't know if I have a specific way, but there's a quote that I recall, and I don't remember who originally said it, but says something along the lines of people massively overestimate what they can do in 6 weeks, and then massively underestimate what they can do in 2 years or 5 years or 6 years.
Think I think it might have been Gary Vaynerchuk.
Okay,
Potentially,
but I and
either that, or I've definitely heard him kind of re-quote that initial quote. I know exactly the lines that you're picking on there. Yeah.
yeah, I think I recall it because I use it a lot with my clients in fitness, but it's people think that they can change everything in 30 days, and they can't. But you can change one or two or three things in 30 days. And if you change one or two or three things every 30 days or every 60 days, like it all adds up. And actually, in like kind of like what you said about figuring out where you want to be in 2 years, are you going to be at the same club in 2 years or anything like that, especially when it comes to injuries and stuff. When you map it out that way, like yeah, it looks scary because you can see it on a macro scale, but you can break things down and see actually this will take me there. Like my actions will take me there if I'm doing the right stuff now. And I think we were saying on, I don't recall the episode number, but we said something along the lines of generally people will see the results 6 weeks to 6 months after they've been putting in the effort for a consistent amount of time. Like no one, you don't go and do a workout and then the following day you're like, oh shit, like I'm jacked, or oh shit, I'm super fast now. Like it doesn't happen like that. You've got to consistently put that intensity in, get the stimulus, and then maybe 6 weeks down the line, you might notice one thing, but keep doing that. And 6 months down the line, you'll have the results that you were training for. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen immediately, and it doesn't even happen super fast. It just doesn't like some things you can change quickly, but for a vast amount of time, anything that you do, you could probably do it in 6 weeks. Sorry, in 6 weeks to 2 years, you could probably accomplish most goals. But people think, no, no, I've got to do this today. I've got to do this today and I've got to do this tomorrow. And it's like, no, just fucking trust the process. Do what you're meant to be doing. Scale back, have a look from the outside and get some perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good way of doing it. And I think ultimately, like after a season as well, in terms like sometimes the reset at the end of a season, going into a new season, kind of the plan is right. Well, we need to, we weren't good enough last year, so now we need to give 110%. And you sit there and you go, fuck me, like, what does 110% look like? Like 110% is impossible. And if you think about it this way, it's actually not that far out of reach, but it's a case of being honest about the things that you did last time round. And if you were to assess, kind of, if every athlete had a look at this and just went, right, okay, all these different aspects of my performance, my sleep, my nutrition, my stress levels, my training, my mindset, my goal setting, my visualization. If you were to break down, and there's so many more, but if you were to break down each one of those and go, right, okay, I want you to give a rating on how well you did each one of those week by week out of 100. If you go, well, I think that was about 91%, 92%, 73%. And by the time you add it all up and you go, right, okay, well, like pick on your worst one. Like, let's say your nutrition was trash, your pre-game, your post-match, your midweek, your general diet, maybe a bit disorganized. You can break it down and go, right, okay, well, what would it take to get that up to from a 72% to 75%? What does a 75% look like? What's one thing you could do differently? What's one habit you could change? And this is how you then start creating new habits. And it's not a case of obliterating the old ones. It's a case of running a new program over the top so that because it's deleting a habit is very, very difficult. Like the software and the programming already exists. You can't just delete it and make it go away like it never happened. You have to overwrite it with something new. So if you can take that from 73% to 75%, and then you go, okay, well, how realistic is that? 10 out of 10, I can definitely do that. How can we get it to 80%? And then you play that game and you go, okay, well, how realistic is that one? It's like, well, that's an 8 out of 10. I can probably do that most weeks. You go, okay, out of curiosity, what would 100%, what would perfection look like for you in that area? And you go through that and you go, well, how realistic is that? And you go, well, not at the minute. And you commit to those one or two new habits. And let's say that maybe that makes an 8% difference in that one area. By the time you've gone through each one, I understand, I appreciate this takes work, but I'm not, I've never said it's not going to do that. You've always got to sit and do the actual fucking work. It's no good sitting there looking at it and going, yeah, I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to do it. It's like, well, have you done the basics? Have you actually worked out exactly what you need to do? At the minute, you're telling me you know roughly what you need to do. Like, you need to eat better. Well, yeah, shit. Like, what does that look like, though? Go into detail, figure it out. And if you've gone 8% up on that, and then you go another maybe 1 or 2%, if you've got 10 areas and you're increasing each one by just a couple of percent, and you're improving your performance levels by 20% on your old 100%, you're actually at 120% of what you performed at last year. And it should give you some actual key markers and habits to actually go away and instill in terms of new behaviors, new strategies, and a new level of organization, a new way of living with zero compromise. And that's the big thing. Like, don't start committing to habits and then compromising on it and sacrificing yourself and going, oh, it's not that important today. I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I need to add to that.
Um, so the next one, lecture over, lecture over on that. The next one will go injuries and isolation. So I think this is a big one. I mean, I know you've been there with your ACL where you weren't able to play sport for a long time and you end up kind of on the sidelines, it's just having to watch and not be able to get involved, not compete. I've been there with my leg, and I know a load of teammates that have been there and been injured, and quite a few who are injured and out for a prolonged period. Um, how well do you feel like you coped?
I want to say in the moment, I feel like I coped well. Like I was very on it with my rehabilitation, and I made sure I did everything I needed to do in order to get back playing as fast as possible. But I think in reality, I mean, I was quite young. I just turned myself off from it, which would indicate that actually I wasn't really coping with it all. I just kind of like, yeah, that's done for a bit. Like I still did my rehab, but I wasn't thinking about like playing and stuff like that. And it's only in hindsight, obviously, where you're then thinking, you know what? Everyone else my age has been playing for an extra 2 years, whereby I've been like crippled. And I always think, and I know this isn't necessarily true, but it was definitely true for me as I thought about things. For me growing up, I was always like, well, I'm super athletic and super physical and good at football because I've had a 2 year head start because I was always playing against you.
Mm,
You know, we started our team like at an age group that wasn't there previous to that. So I always felt like I'd had a head start. So then when I was injured, and obviously I wasn't able to compete, not able to really do anything, like it was leveling the playing field. Um, but it wasn't. I was falling way, way, way behind. Because the big thing as well, I think, is with an injury and stuff like that, like you're talking about time away. Time away is time away from the sport and time away from keep competing. And whatever you're spending your time doing is trickling in. And it's like you said, you rather than just deleting something, it gets overwritten. So for me, I went into training in the gym and doing bodybuilding stuff because that was really the only physical thing that I could do. And
Mm,
in my head, that was what I enjoyed now. Like, and you got to do that for, well, you don't have to do that, but I did that for 2 years before I realized, like, you know what? I wish I was still playing football again.
yeah.
So, yeah, things get sacrificed. Like, yeah, you get left behind by teammates and stuff as well, but it's the skill level as well, the skill gap now. If you're getting older and you lose 2 years or a year and people are playing and they're training hard and they're competing and you're not, it creates in your head a big deficit for what you need to do in order to get back.
Mm. I would say I don't think it's doesn't necessarily have to be doom and gloom in terms of like you're going to fall behind and fall forever. Like you, there are still ways around it and things that can be done in the recovery process to keep you on track with regards to skill levels and things like that. And then in terms of working on physical competency, there's probably not actually a better time to train and work on it than when you're actually injured because that's when you've got the most intense amount of focus on it. And obviously, if you're fit and you're healthy, like if a footballer gets injured and the well, sorry, if a footballer's playing 2 and 3 times a week, there's very, very little time in that week to actually train. You're looking to get all your adaptations and progressions from actually just playing games. So in terms of working on speed, working on strength, there's a very, very small window and a small amount you can do, and likely a very small amount of progress you're likely to make. But if you're injured and you can dedicate all your time to it, then it, ultimately you've got to see it as an opportunity and that you be positive that there is a way forward and a way out of it. And it's interesting that you kind of picked up on the feeling that you then have to play catch up. Um, I mean, is that something that you would say like motivated you or pushed you on or gave you a bit of a kick?
It was both. It certainly motivated me because that was the way that I looked at things when I was trying to come back. But at the same side, sorry, on the opposite side of the same coin, like that's also the negative thing that you're thinking. You're thinking, oh shit, I am trying to catch up. So it's kind of like, when you talk about the doubts and the uncertainty,
Mm.
when things are good, you're thinking, right, I'm getting back. I need to get back to get level the playing field, etc. And when things are going bad, you're thinking, I'm at a deficit, I'm behind. Why am I even bothering with this?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, in terms of the isolation, I think it's really difficult because I would say you're likely to just end up work. I mean, if you're lucky enough, you'll just end up working with the medical team, working with the physios. If you're having to do it all on your own and you haven't necessarily got that support, it's even worse. Um, but I would say, like in a situation where you know coaches and managers are there to do a job, they're there to get results, and if you're injured and out of action, unfortunately, you're not going to be in their thoughts because I mean, put it bluntly, you're of no use to them. Your number one job is to heal up and get better, and that is out of their scope. And expecting them to just come knocking and feeding you grapes and you know caring to your emotional, catering to your emotional situation, I'd think is generally an unrealistic expectation. I'm not saying it's something that coaches shouldn't do. I think it's something that coaches should do in terms of supporting injured players and keeping in touch, keeping tabs, and making sure they're okay, and helping them and providing whatever help and support that they possibly can. But I know for a fact it's not something that all of them do. So what I would suggest in that situation is consistently do your best to try and put yourself into that team environment when and where possible. Like go to games, go to team events, just be around the group if it's something like you feel like you need or you want to do. I know for myself, I was completely the opposite. I would have rather stayed away from all of it and just kept away from the environment because I would have just missed it and got irritated even more by it. I was more than happy just going around doing the work and kind of being on my own rather than having to expose myself to what I'm actually missing out on. Um, So I think that more or less takes us to kind of like the third key summary, which is just like pressure. Pressure is part of performance. It's a pressure is a privilege, as I've heard people
Sebum.
say.
Sebum. Sebum.
Any
Yeah,
uh,
I genuinely like. I feel like the answer to nearly all of these, if not all of them, is just how effectively you communicate with yourself, how you talk to yourself, and the way that you're choosing to see things. Like even in the light of an injury or a challenge or things not going your way, if you communicate effectively with yourself, then you'll overcome most things.
yeah, again, coping with pressure, I would just say it comes down to focusing on you, doing the work, focusing on what you're good at, center yourself before every performance, before a training session, see yourself succeeding, have a positive mindset, do the visualization work, and carry yourself forward. That's about all you can do. All you can do. Every single thing from me as a coach and Chris as a coach speaking to you as an individual. It's not about the team. It's not about your manager. It's not about the coaching staff. It's not about the training environment. It's all about you, what goes on in your head, and the preparation and the work that you do to get ready to be able to perform. That's the thing that matters most. And if we can get that right, you've got every chance of being successful. So, in terms of getting that additional help, we I mentioned this in the last podcast episode. On Monday the 20th at 8 p.m. UK time, we are going to be doing another one of our live elite performance chats where we're going to be talking through and coaching through some habits and goal setting ahead of well, I see, as we're about a month into the new year and making sure we're actually implementing things with following on from the best of the intentions that we had starting the new year. So if you've set some new goals, if you've had some new thoughts, if you've got any brainwaves about things you want to achieve, things you want to do, we're here to help you do that. So if you do want to gain access to that, places are limited. We're going to be hosting it on Zoom. Send me a message via Instagram or via my email. I think you can get in touch with us via the links associated with the podcast. Or if you want to message me on Instagram, it's Alex underscore Lankowski underscore performance. Same with Chris. If you send us a message, we will send you the link, and it's like as long as we know you're coming, we will let you in. So if you'd like to be there, it'll be about an hour. You will need pen and paper. We're going to be asking questions. Get your thinking hat ready because this is going to be this is going to be a deep dive into what is going to push you forwards and how we're actually going to kind of kick you on. So if you want to get a little bit of coaching, a little bit of access to me and Chris and see behind the scenes of what we do and how we work with clients, then that is a great opportunity to do it. So please feel free to I wouldn't say take advantage, but please come and join us. Like we are here to help you do that.
Take advantage. I agree. Take advantage.
Yeah, but don't feel bad about it. We're allowing it. We want you to take advantage.
Yeah. Use it.
Chris, any final pearls of wisdom?
No, no, no
Yeah,
pearls
I'm
of
pretty
wisdom.
happy with everything we've covered today. So hopefully you've enjoyed listening. Thank you for being along. And if you found this useful, if you found it, if you what, ultimately, if you think it's going to hit home with somebody else, please share it with them. And if you need any further advice or if you want any further chats or coaching, please drop us a message. We are here to support you along the way. Until next time, that is it from me.
Peace, love, and protein.
Take care, guys. We'll see you again soon.